You hear me, Kurt?
Hello.
Hey, you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
All right, man, we did it.
We did it.
How's it going?
It's good. How
Hey,
are you?
I'm doing well, man. Nice to meet you.
You too. You got some nice guitars up there, man. Look
Oh,
at that.
forget. Yeah, it's a disease. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
I
more of a bass
definitely have that
player,
too.
but I play a lot of guitar too.
Is that a
But
D'Angelico?
the blue one
Yeah.
is, and then got an ES 175 there. There's all it's crazy. There's
Wow.
and and they're all in the cases too. So yeah, it's nuts.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
You're in Jersey?
Yeah, so I'm in like central kind of central Jersey Shore area. So not far from
Oh.
like I play a lot Asbury Park, Red Bank, that area. So I don't know if
Oh, cool.
you're from Philly, right?
I'm from Philly. Yeah, we used to go down the shore,
Okay. What
like
where
Sea Isle City and Margate,
all right.
and you know, yeah, just down there. My aunt would take me to the horse races and go gambling and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. No doubt. Yeah, so that's a little south of me. That's more like Atlantic City-ish area, but
Atlantic City, that's right.
yeah. But yeah, cool. All right, so this article is this is for Downbeat. Um and then also the podcast if that's okay with you. So mostly I wanted to talk about the release of I guess it's a new album, the Live at Smalls 1996, the Next Step Band. So what made you release this record?
Well, we were planning our world tour, and it's always good to release an album when you tour. And I've had these DAT tapes uh in my possession since the 90s. We used to record our concerts every now and then. And right when the DAT tape revolution started and kicked in, that was all of a sudden a great way to be able to have a portable recording situation and have it be, quite good quality. So, we started just taping all of our gigs, and I just carried them all around with me in a little Samsonite briefcase. I'm really old school with all my dad tapes in there for all these years. And occasionally I would dip in and check them out, and there was just a lot of uh, great stuff from back in the day. And I kind of like earmarked them, and when I started my label, I also thought about them and was waiting for the right time. And so this was the right time to dig into those archives, and we found one date that was particularly exciting and really kind of um, encapsulated that time and that era in
Sure.
that club.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, did you remember that gig? I mean, you probably did so many there, but did you remember that gig specifically, or you really just had to go back and listen to the tapes and see what resonated?
Yeah, we sorted through all the tapes, which was an interesting experience, just really going back because we recorded a lot of gigs. But I do remember that one in particular because uh that was like in the beginning when I wrote these tunes, they were pretty fresh at that point. And I remember I showed one tune to Meldau, and he was there, and I was like, "Hey, you can hear it on the tape." I'm like, "Hey, Brad, you want to play that tune, that new tune of mine?" And that was Zhivago. And so that was like one of the first performances of that song, I think. Definitely one of the first ones. And so I do remember that because I remember Brad playing with us that night.
Right, right. Yeah. So there's some vocalization on, I think, A Life Unfolds. Who's doing that?
That's me.
Oh, that's you. Okay. Cool. I wasn't sure. Uh, nice. So then also, in addition, you have the Ultimate Book of Compositions.
Yeah.
coming out as well, right? So tell me about that process.
Yeah. So at a certain point, my book, as it were, is huge and it's all paper because always writing music by hand. And at a certain point, about like just over 8 years ago, um I decided to, embark on putting them into Sibelius, so we could just have them in the right form and, just be able to bring them into the digital age, as it were, And so I asked my friend if he would help me do that, and that just started this process that turned out to be this odyssey and this Herculean task, and this epic adventure. And 8 years later, it's 1,500 pages of notation, of all
Yeah.
my music. And it just started very small, like, hey, let's put my tunes into PDF, let's make them really nice and put them in. And then it just got more and more and became all of my music. And then we were like, okay, well, let's make a book out of this. This is very cool stuff, and let's publish this book. And then when you have a book, then I'm thinking I want it to be a beautiful book, like an art book, like this beautiful one of these great books. You go to the bookstore and you're like, oh, that huge book, that's beautiful. You
Yeah.
bring it home, you put it on your coffee table, you open it up when you want to just like browse and check it out, and like just just kind of like almost just luxuriate in this interesting thing, this book of art, this book of music, this book of photos and manuscripts and commentary. So it became more than just putting the music itself into notation form, but became this beautiful book that we decided to do, and we embarked on that. And then the commentary evolved over a couple of years of conversations with my guy Isaac Seto, who was the editor of the commentary stuff. And through the conversations, just asking me about every song and what was going on during that time in my artistic process. And there's some autobiographical context in there as well.
Hmm.
Um, and it became this kind of like an autobiography as well, since all of this music kind of traced my development as an artist and a person since 1988 up till now. So it's became this thing.
Wow, that's really cool. So yeah, so beyond just the transcription book, I mean, this is like a full on package.
Yeah. And then also we decided to just go all in and completely kind of transform the way that these things are done. To my knowledge, there isn't another example of anybody doing this quite like we have done. For example, we include all the Sibelius files of all the songs so that it's very easy if you're an arranger and you're interested in making an arrangement of these songs, that you
Right.
have the Sibelius file there and you can work with it and create arrangements and transpose things easily, and put things on different instruments, and whatever your arranging needs are, you can work with the material very easily in the modern way that we do.
Yeah, yeah.
And then also we did guitar tabs for all of the music that was written for guitar. So um, that opens up a whole world for guitarists who don't necessarily uh reading music all the time, who are dealing with tab, which is a really cool protocol for, or notation system for guitar. I had never really worked with tab before this project, and then in this project making tabs for all these songs, I started to really come to appreciate how cool tabs are for guitar, man. It's awesome,
Sure.
man. I learned so much just messing with the tablature. And so that was really cool. So we offer tabs, Sibelius files, and yeah,
So
and all the scores and the instrumental parts.
yeah, that's very cool. So the so I'm assuming you went through it. So the tabs today so they'll indicate because obviously I'm a
Exactly how I play all the stuff. Yeah.
that's really cool. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's where tabs can really be even for a reading musician. Like I'm sure we both are. Yeah, that's a cool thing experience. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So and then you said, are you on tour? You're on tour right now?
Yeah, I'm on tour right now. I'm at the Detroit Jazz Festival at the moment.
Okay.
Am starting this tour with Brian Blade's Fellowship, which
Hmm.
is a band that I've been a part of for many, many years. We've done he does different things under that name. You know, the band members shift a little bit, but I'm one of the OGs
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and happy to be back on the ship and touring, and we're gonna record. And so yeah.
So who's currently in the band right now?
It's Melvin Butler on tenor saxophone, Myron Walden on alto, John Cowherd on piano, and Roland Gavarin on bass. Yeah,
Okay.
myself and Brian.
Nice, nice. So if I can go way back, I guess, can you talk about sort of your upbringing and like were your family were they musicians as well?
Yeah, but all that stuff I've gone over like a million times with a million,
Right, right,
different,
sure.
you know.
Cool. Yeah, we could kind of bypass that then. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, no worries. The one thing though, if you could talk about, I mean, just a little more specifically, because I obviously I've done some research, but growing up in Philadelphia, I know you've talked about before, but like this in particular is of great interest to me. All these different musicians who are well known, McBride, DeFrancesco,
Yeah.
Questlove. I mean, what was that like for you? Just like how did that come to be?
Yeah, so yeah, so you're talking about Kappa and Creative
Yeah,
and Performing Arts High School in Philly. Um yeah, that was a trip, man. It was like so much going on. It was like fame, like fame.
right, right.
I want to live forever.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want to learn how to fly. Fly, you
But how
know.
did, like, how did you? Very funny. I, I wonder how many people.
So I was going in there at early in the morning at like 8 in the morning, and Joey and Christian would just be burning giant steps at like 320 BPM, like at 8:30 a.m. And I'd just come in there, I'd just be like, whoa, holy shit. These cats are just completely tearing it up, like just beyond. I mean, Miles Davis came in and hired Joey out to school, and it was just ridiculous.
Right.
And so it was amazing to have all that going on. And I was doing my thing, and I was deep in my creative world, as I've always been, since I was 9, just in my world, in my dreams, in my imagination, just living in you know my 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 inner world with music and being around them. And at that time also in Philly, I was going to a lot of jam sessions at local clubs, and just kind of immersing myself in the the music of jazz, uh and the tradition, and the real traditions of the living tradition of jazz, as it really is, like coming down through the generations, and going to a club and becoming a part of it, and that was really significant to me in my upbringing.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like so. It's interesting because I grew up where I am now. I'm like an hour from Philly, but it seemed like Philly had this like insulated kind of thing. Like I never even thought to check out Philly as a Center for Jazz, like when I had New York, like an hour from Philly, hour from New York, and
Yeah.
you know, I feel like I really missed an opportunity there. We're kind of close in age, and so I mean, it seemed like it had its own scene that
Oh,
was
absolutely, man. Philly is got a huge jazz scene. It always has. And it's like, it's one of the it's it's not an international jazz scene. It's a local scene, and as such, like it's kind of been insulated from the kind of I mean, it's been protected in the sense of like it's like got heritage, like it's like a UNESCO heritage site for jazz, it's like uh the real um community music feeling and spirit of the music, the music serving a community role and something that, you know when when you go to a club and you're playing and you're just playing for the people, and it's this feeling of that's what the music is, that's where it comes from, and when you feel just the house just lifting, and everybody there just having this kind of ecstatic experience, through the music, that's something very rare and not what you find for the most part in most, like, if you go to jazz clubs, somewhere, so that I was really lucky to become a part of that, growing up. And Philly has just an amazing, so many clubs, and I used to go down to the Blue Note, LG's Blue Note,
yeah.
and Slim Cooper's and Bob and Barbara's and TT Monroe's, and just checking out all the cats, man. Bootsy Barnes, Eddie Green, you know, uh, Buster Buster Bubba. It's not Tyrone Brown, not Buster
Yeah,
Williams. Tyrone Brown,
yeah.
Charles Fambro, Sid
Oh,
Simmons.
Charles Fambro, so underrated, man.
Oh man, yeah, Trudy Pitts. You know,
Yeah, it's wild.
Mr.
And it's like,
T.
yeah, so many cats, and it's like I said, it's like I'll get calls to play gigs in New York or but never, like almost barely ever Philly. Like the Philly guys are it's almost like they're a team, and they don't
Yeah.
you don't want any of this.
Well,
It's
there's so many cats there. They don't, I don't know. I think the tri-state area mixes it up.
yeah, yeah, they do, but it's just like, of course I've played Philly a bit, but yeah, I mean it's wild how there's just enough people that they don't need too many outsiders coming in, even if you're just, an hour away or so. It's wild. Um, so just I know you've talked about a lot of these people. I just want to talk about two people in general. One is Gary Burton. I think we missed each other at Berkeley. I was there a little after you. I
Mm,
remember I remember Gary Burton. Didn't know him well, short of he was, I think he was the president of the school at the time or something.
yeah.
So what was that connection like for you? It seemed like it was a very formative thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, as a guitarist in the Berkeley school and in Boston, and having been influenced by Schofield and Frizzell and Metheny, um, and Mick Goodrick, that whole lineage of guitarists that all came through Gary's band at one point or another.
Mhm.
And that was like uh an amazing historical line that you just saw, as a guitarist. You were aware of, Wolfgang Mushspiel's playing in Gary's band, and wow, that's amazing. And then Wolfgang left the band and recommended me, and so that's how I got the gig. I went up to Gary's office and, you know kind of auditioned and got the gig. And And that was great, because that kind of was the sort of gateway for me, um, to go from school to professional life as a jazz guitarist, and we started touring all around the world, and that was like my first international touring experience, and it was amazing playing with Gary because he's such a master, and hearing him play on all those tunes, and particularly when he would do his solo performances, every set he would do a solo piece, and it was just absolutely mind-bogglingly great. And just to see, it's one thing to listen to records and to hear the greatest musicians playing music, but it's another thing to be right next to a true master and
Right.
watching them just do it in the same room as you, in the same atmosphere with the same vibes going on, so to speak, no pun intended. And that's just something altogether different, because the penny drops. You realize that it's possible, it's possible to play like that. I'm watching him do it, and yet it's such a mystery. Like, how do you attain that level? But but what's not a mystery is that it's possible, because you see it with your own eyes. You just had lunch with the guy, and
Right.
there he is playing the most masterful music on, instrumental performance that you've ever seen before. And that's something that has a big effect, that had a big effect on me. Like, okay, it's it was just another reminder, like, being in the presence of Joey and Chris when they were doing that, like seeing it, like, oh my God, like it's possible. Like, they're doing it, like right now, like right in front of you.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, all these things, like, really, I mean, I didn't need any motivation. I've always been obsessed with music, but um there was just certain like bars that were demonstrated in front of me that I was like, wow, that's interesting. That's like very high, and you can do it, so
Yeah, totally. Um, so yeah, and then like another interesting connection you had was with Q-Tip, and I wanted to ask you about how that came to be.
yeah. So I was playing at the Village Vanguard, and a mutual friend, Giora Katz, who was working with Q-Tip on Kamal the Abstract. They came down to the club and they heard our set, and the next day, uh, there was like a bottle of wine with a little note saying from Q-Tip saying he loved the show, and there was his number. So I called him up, and then we just kind of hung out after that and started jamming together, and just started doing stuff. And he called me to come down to the studio. I came down to the studio and played some tracks on a couple songs on Kamal the Abstract. And then later on, he like after he finished that album, he formed a band, and asked me to join his band, and which I did.
Right.
And the band, we didn't really play live. What we did was we worked in his studio for about a year, going over to his house that he had a studio in New Jersey,
Right.
and we just went over there and recorded for like 3, 4 days a week, for about a year. And we just were jamming and coming up with stuff and making songs. We made like 100 songs together. And during that time, um, I was coming off the heels of the Next Step album, my album on Verve, and I wanted to do something different. And I pitched my idea to Verve, which was to do an album by myself in my home studio,
Hmm.
uh, using the studio as a creative music making tool, which I always have been doing. But at that point, like I thought that the technology was good enough to finally do it for like a real record at that point, because before that it was just like my home stuff, whatever. Wasn't good enough quality to make a record per se up to that point. But then finally the tech was accessible enough with the digital audio workstations and home computing and all that stuff, so that I could finally do something on my own. So I asked Q-Tip to co-produce that, and so he did, and that became my album Heartcore.
Yeah.
And so we were working that whole year, like kind of back and forth. I was going over to his place, and he was coming over to my place in Brooklyn. Jersey, Brooklyn, Jersey, Brooklyn. That was always like that. And so his album, the music we were working on with him eventually became his album Kamal The Renaissance, which came out in 2008. And my album obviously was Hardcore.
Yeah. Cool. And then, well, this brings it right to it. So, Hardcore Records. What made you decide to form your own label, and what are some of the challenges and benefits of having your own record label?
Yeah, so I was I I kind of um I kind of pushed the reset button in my life on like kind of across the board. Um, I left the school I was teaching at. I quit my manager, my record label, my booking agent, and I I had an album that I was working on for a long time, and um called Caipi. And I wanted to find a home for that album and a home for me going forward. And I went to the major labels and had some meetings and stuff and had some really positive responses. And but ultimately I realized that, you know, nothing was like a perfect fit.
Sure.
And um and I realized also that if I wanted to finish my album the way that it needed to be finished, that I was gonna have to just sort of do it myself, you know? And if I'm doing it myself, then I might as well release it myself.
Mm.
And so I realized that I should start my own label, primarily to release that record. But then when I started thinking about it, then that opens up the whole door to that whole world of like, oh, this is really interesting. Like, okay, I can start my own business, you know, um, and try my own hand at all of this, you know, industry stuff, all of this whole world, let's play, it's like a video game, it's like playing a game, here's the parameters, let's see what you can do, you know, and and I love video games. So I'm gonna play the record company video game from Atari. Here we go.
Yeah.
And you can implement your own ideas, and you can come up with your own approaches to things, and that's fun, that's cool, and and why not? If one thing I realize is that, like, every single business you walk by every day, millions of them, every single one, there's one person who said, like, I'm gonna start my own business.
Totally.
And as an artist who has always kind of come up under this sort of system where like, oh, I hope I get a record contract. Oh, I hope I can get signed to a label, and the role of the artist is this kind of like just a very small cog in the wheel of a larger machine that is usually at cross purposes with what you're trying to do as an artist. You kind of get the feeling like, you're just kind of floating with the current, however it happens to be moving, and you've got no control over what's moving you in this direction or that direction. So instead of that, once you start your own business, then you're defining the current. Then all of a sudden you have a boat
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're moving and you can navigate yourself. And that's much cooler. So that was the the real um crux of the matter, as it were. And then since then, I've got this boat, man. We're grooving, man. We're we're sailing and we're catching the wind, trying to catch it. And um one thing that's awesome when you have a record company is like, okay, let's think about, what great artists are out there who we can help. We can bring up and bring
yeah,
on the boat, man, and create this community of amazing people and provide, I mean, I'm kind of at the point in my career where I can do that, a little bit now. I have a kind of a platform to raise people up, who need it, who need something, who need a little lift. And if I can provide that, then I'm happy. That makes me happy. So it's a great aspect of having the label to, you know, say, hey, Cecil Alexander, man, I love what you're doing. Like, do you want to make a record, for hardcore? Yeah, let's do it. Awesome. Boom, done. And it's out there, and people are like, damn, Cecil Alexander's a bad cat. Yeah, wow, cool. And it's challenging, of course, because the industry is like, it's very difficult to generate income with music, as we know,
yeah.
especially recorded music.
Right.
Uh, but you know, it's kind of like, I always kind of had it in my mind that you've got to reach the point of threshold with with your catalog. Like, you have to have enough catalog so that, a little bit trickling in from each thing
Sure.
starts to become a garden that is self-sustaining.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
know, you plant one plant, and it's like, uh-oh, I hope it survives, one
yeah,
plant, but as soon as you have a garden, everything is helping the whole ecology of the whole system. So you kind of have to shoot for that kind of like, you have to survive until you have a foundation, and
right.
then you can really grow with a fruitful, yeah, garden.
Yeah, no, really cool, man. I mean, it seems like there was a sort of like like you said, like a reset, or you really seem to want to have taken control more of your entire thing, right? Just at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. All right, man. So let me think. Then anything else? I mean, I don't want to keep you too long. What other projects you got going on? Anything else you want to let people know about?
There's a lot of things in the works, as always, thank God. And uh, you know, um, uh, there's probably about 5 different albums that I'm working on at the same time. One of them was I did a very uh, artistically significant project this year as well, which was I wrote a program of arrangements for Jazz at Lincoln Center big band with Wynton Marsalis and went to New York and performed 3 concerts with them at Lincoln Center and in New Jersey, and those were recorded, and that was the first time that I actually arranged anything for big band. So, and it came out great. So that's going to come out on Hardcore Records, and that's coming down the pike. That's an exciting project that's in the works.
Wow. What was it like working with Wynton?
Amazing. I love working with Wynton. He's a great cat. He understands uh all, of course, all of the levels and everything that's going on, from the music to the history to the moment, and the and the the not the ergonomic, just logistics and business acumen that he has, and everything with Lincoln Center and being involved in creating that kind of an institution. He's a very, very great artist and figure in the music, and he's very personally very warm, and I've got a just huge amount of respect for him, and we work really well together. So yeah.
Very, yeah. And is there any finally, like, is there any, how do I want to pattern this? Anyone you're looking forward to recording with who you haven't, or any kind of sort of cross genre or something different that you're looking towards, like the future, something new, completely different? Because you've done some really interesting things, like the Bartok, well, not Bartok, was it uh
Chopin.
Chopin? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's brilliant, man. Like that kind of anything more like that.
Yeah, well, we got another iteration of that project coming as well. It's the Brahms project now. So
Oh, all right.
yeah,
Yeah.
we just recorded an album that'll come out in March, next March, and that's the Brahms project. And so that's another exploration of composers' music with that group. It's an excellent project, dear to me. And yeah, but there's some other albums that I'm working on, some that I've been working on for a very long time that I'm almost finished with. So, but I don't want to talk about it
Yeah,
too much.
you got a lot on your plate. Hey, Kurt, I really appreciate your time, man, and definitely
Likewise.
appreciate your music as well.
Well,
Always
thanks
enjoy
very much, Jay. I
it.
appreciate you. Thank you.